Do you ever think we've outgrown this place? Claire asked, her eyes fixed on the city lights outside the cafe window. I smiled. You say that like we're 80? She didn't laugh. I mean it, Ethan. You're happy doing the same things. Same job, same apartment, same everything. I leaned forward. And you're not? Her sigh cut through me. Sometimes I feel like I'm stuck in someone else's story. You mean ours? Maybe. The coffee between us had gone cold, but the silence burned hotter than ever. I forced a grin. We've been together since college, Claire. Every dream I've had, you're in it. Dreams change. I blinked. Since when? Since I met someone who reminded me what it feels like to want more. My stomach twisted. Someone? She hesitated, then whispered, Ryan. Ryan who? The pilot from the travel campaign, she said, voice shaking. He makes me feel alive, Ethan. I laughed softly, not because it was funny, but because my body didn't know what else to do. Alive. Claire, we built our life together. Everything we have, you built it, she cut in. You built a cage and called it love. That's not fair. It's honest. The words hit harder than I expected. I stared at her, searching for the girl who used to hold my hand in crowded subways and promise forever. Now she couldn't even look at me, so that's it? I asked quietly. You're walking away? I don't want to, but I have to, she said. You're too ordinary, Ethan. I need someone who makes life exciting. I wanted to shout, to break something, but all I could manage was a whisper. And he does? She nodded once, eyes glistening. He flies, Ethan. He doesn't just talk about dreams. He lives them. I felt my throat tighten. And I'm supposed to just watch you go? She stood up, slipping her coat on. You'll move on. You always do. Not from you. She paused at the door. You will, someday. The bell above the cafe door jingled as she left, and with it, something inside me shattered. I sat there for a long time, staring at the empty seat across from me. When I finally stepped outside, the cold air bit through my jacket. The streetlights blurred into streaks of gold as I walked aimlessly through the city. My phone buzzed, a message from Jake. Jake, hey, still on for game night? I typed, deleted, then typed again. Me, not tonight. A moment later, my phone rang. Yo, what's up, man? You sound weird, Jake said. She left, I muttered. Claire? What, why? For someone who can fly, Jake cursed under his breath. A pilot? You're kidding. I wish I was. You okay? No, he was silent for a while. You want me to come over? No, I need to be alone. Don't do anything stupid. I already did. I loved her. When I got home, her stuff was gone, every photo, every trace of her. Only the faint smell of her perfume lingered in the air, mocking me. I sat on the couch, staring at the wall until dawn crept through the blinds. Days turned into weeks, and every corner of the apartment reminded me of her. The coffee mug she'd left, the empty frame on the nightstand, the way she'd hum in the kitchen. I couldn't escape her ghost. One evening, Jake dropped by unannounced. You look like hell, he said, tossing me a sandwich. I feel worse. She doesn't deserve this much of your headspace, man. She deserved everything, I said quietly. He shook his head. No, she didn't. She traded a heart for a thrill. I chuckled bitterly. Maybe she was right. Maybe I am ordinary. Jake leaned against the counter. Ordinary doesn't build empires. You just haven't started yet. Empires? I scoffed. Yeah, you've got the brains, the drive. You're just broken right now. I don't want revenge, Jake. I just want to stop hurting. Then give that pain a purpose. His words stuck with me long after he left. That night, I opened my laptop, stared at a blank screen, and whispered, Purpose. Months later, a photo of Claire appeared on my feed, her and Ryan smiling inside a private jet, champagne glasses raised. The caption read, To new heights. I stared at it until my vision blurred. Then, for the first time, I didn't cry. I felt something colder, sharper. Congratulations, I murmured to the photo. You got your wings. The next morning, I quit my job at the firm. My boss blinked. You're serious? Completely. What will you do? I smiled faintly. Build something that flies higher. Walking out of that office felt like stepping off a cliff. But for once, I wasn't afraid of the fall. I'd already crashed. That night, I stood on my balcony, city lights below me, stars above. My heart still ached, but beneath the pain was something new, something fierce. "You wanted someone who could fly, Claire," I whispered. "One day, you'll see me from the sky." The wind carried my words into the dark, and for the first time since she left, I felt weightless. Jake knocked on my door again. "Ethan, open up." "You've been in there for days," I groaned from the couch. "Go away." The door creaked open anyway. He stepped in holding takeout. "You look like a corpse." "I feel like one," I muttered. "What day is it?" "Tuesday. Or maybe Wednesday. Hard to tell when your curtains haven't been open in a week." "Don't start." "I'm not starting, I'm saving you," he said, tossing me a sandwich. "Eat, or at least pretend." I stared at it. "She used to hate this place. Said the smell of bread made her nauseous." Jake rolled his eyes. "Bro, she's gone. You can stop living in her ghost story." I rubbed my eyes. "You don't get it. She was everything. She was a chapter, not the whole book." I laughed bitterly. "Easy for you to say. You didn't watch the person you love fly away with someone better." He sat beside me. "Ryan's not better. He's a guy with wings and a borrowed personality. Still, she chose him." Jake leaned forward. "You can either stay here rotting or you can prove her wrong." "How?" "By getting up. Taking a shower would be a solid start." I smirked despite myself. "You're an idiot." "Yeah, but I'm a functioning idiot. You, my friend, are a disaster." I grabbed my phone out of habit, scrolling through nothing until the screen lit up with her latest post. Dubai. Her and Ryan inside a private jet, champagne glasses raised. "To new adventures." Jake noticed my expression. "What is it?" I turned the phone toward him. "That." He whistled softly. "Wow, she moves fast." "She always wanted the sky," I said. "Guess she got it." Jake took the phone and set it face down. "And you're still grounded." Maybe that's who I am. Ordinary, grounded Ethan. He looked at me, serious now. "You know what I think?" "You're not ordinary. You just stopped fighting." "I fought for her." "Try fighting for yourself this time." His words hit harder than I expected. I stood up, pacing. "You think I can just erase her? Like she didn't rip out half my life?" "No, but you can rebuild what's left." I stared at the mess around me, half-empty bottles, unpaid bills, cold coffee. My reflection in the dark window looked like a stranger. "I can't stay here," I whispered. "Then don't." I looked at him. "What if I fail?" He shrugged. "Then fail spectacularly. At least it'll be yours," I laughed under my breath. "You're a terrible motivator." "I'm your only motivator." That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, her voice echoing, "You're too ordinary, Ethan." Around 3 a.m., I sat at my desk, opened my resignation email, and stared at the blinking cursor. Jake's voice replayed in my head, "Fight for yourself." So I typed, "Effective immediately. I resign." I hit send before I could regret it. The next morning, my boss called. "Ethan, this is sudden." "Are you sure?" "Completely. What will you do now?" I looked out the window at the dull city skyline. "Start over," he sighed. "You're making a mistake." "Maybe. But it's my mistake." When I hung up, I felt strangely light. Scared but free. I sold my car that week, cleared out my apartment, donated my suits. Every item I let go of felt like cutting another string that tied me to who I was. Jake watched me pack the last box. "You sure about this?" "Yeah. Where will you go?" "Anywhere but here," he grinned. "That's vague. I don't have a plan yet." "But I'll figure it out," he clapped my shoulder. "That's the Ethan I remember," I smirked. "He's just been asleep for a while." We carried the boxes to the car. The city air was heavy, but for once it didn't suffocate me. Jake handed me my old watch, the one Claire had gifted me. "You keeping this?" I looked at it for a long moment. "No, time stopped the day she left." I tossed it into the trash. Jake whistled. "Damn, that's symbolic." Maybe I'm done living in symbols. As I closed the trunk, I turned to him. "She said I'd never be more than ordinary." "Maybe she was right," he frowned. "You don't believe that?" I smiled faintly. "No, but one day she'll wish she hadn't." He nodded. "When that day comes, I'll be there to say I told you so." I laughed for the first time in weeks. "I'll hold you to that." As I drove away, the city lights blurred in my rearview mirror. My hands trembled on the wheel, but there was something burning in my chest. something alive. Maybe pain wasn't meant to break me. Maybe it was meant to wake me up. The office was nothing more than a cramped room above a laundromat, humming with the smell of detergent and desperation. I set my coffee on the desk, opened my laptop, and whispered, "All right, let's try again." Lines of code glowed on the screen, taunting me. I'd been at it for hours, maybe days. I didn't know anymore. The door creaked open. "You alive in here?" Jake asked, holding a greasy paper bag. "Barely," I muttered. "What's that? Dinner or breakfast?" "Time's a mystery." I grabbed a fry. "How's the outside world?" "Less depressing than this cave." He scanned the wires and coffee cups. "You building a company or a caffeine shrine?" "Depends on which one starts paying first." Jake sat on the desk, ignoring my glare. "So what's the plan, genius?" I sighed. "I'm learning how to code this app. It's going to help small businesses manage clients without needing expensive software." "Sounds useful." "Yeah, if I can get it to work." Jake leaned closer. "You ever think maybe you're doing this to prove something to her?" I paused. At first, maybe, but not anymore. "Then why kill yourself working 20 hours a day?" "Because I'm done being ordinary." He smiled faintly. "That's the Ethan I remember." I turned back to the screen. "Go home, Jake. I've got work to do." "Fine, but promise me one thing. Eat something that isn't liquid caffeine." I waved him off as he left. The silence returned, wrapping around me like armor. Days blurred into nights, and nights into the hum of the laundromat machines below. Sometimes I caught my reflection in the monitor, eyes hollow, determination alive. Months passed before I finally had something worth showing. I called it Elysium. Jake dropped by again. "You're actually naming it after heaven?" "It means a place of peace," I said. "I could use some of that," he grinned. "And if it fails? Then I'll build another one." A week later, I pitched Elysium to a local investor group. Most of them smiled politely, then moved on. But one man stayed behind. He was older, with silver hair and calm eyes. "You built this yourself?" "Every line of code," I said. He nodded. "Mr. Reynolds," he said, offering a hand. "I like people who build things from scratch." I shook his hand, my pulse racing. "Ethan Cross." "What's your vision, Ethan?" "I want small businesses to have the same tools big corporations use, without needing millions." He studied me. "You're not after money, are you?" I smiled faintly. "Not anymore," he chuckled. "Good answer. Come by my office tomorrow. Let's talk about funding." When he left, I just stood there, stunned. Jake appeared from nowhere, grinning. "Was that who I think it was?" "Yeah," I said, still breathless. "Mr. Reynolds," Jake laughed. "You, my friend, just found your golden ticket." The next day, I met Reynolds at his office. He asked questions about revenue, users, future plans. I answered everyone, my nerves disguised as confidence. Finally, he leaned back. "You remind me of myself when I started," he said. "Stubborn, hungry, and probably broke." "All three, sir," he smiled. "I'll invest, but on one condition. You run this with discipline. No emotional detours. Business only. Deal." As I left his office, I felt like I could breathe for the first time in years. Jake called as soon as I stepped outside. "Well?" "He's in," Jake shouted through the phone. I told you this would work." "Don't jinx it," I said, but I was smiling. Weeks turned into months again. With Reynolds' backing, I hired 2 developers, rented a better space, and finally slept more than 3 hours a night. But success came slowly. We hit bugs, delays, and one disastrous launch that almost tanked the whole project. I slammed my hands on the desk. "We can't afford another failure!" My lead developer, Max, frowned. "We just need time. Time doesn't pay bills," I snapped. That night, Jake stopped by. "You're pushing too hard," he said. "I can't stop now." "Ethan, you already proved her wrong." I shook my head. "This isn't about her anymore. This is about me proving I belong up there, with the people who never believed I could make it." He sighed. "Then at least take a breath before you crash." "I'll rest when it works." It finally did. A small business in Chicago used our app and tripled their client base in 2 months. Then another company signed up. Then 10 more. One morning, I opened my inbox and froze. A message from a major retailer, interested in partnership with Elysium. I called Reynolds immediately. "They reached out," I said. He chuckled. "Congratulations, Mr. Cross, you've built something real." After we signed the deal, he poured 2 glasses of whiskey. You know, he said, people chase money their whole lives and still feel empty. But the ones who build? They don't chase, they lead. I looked at him. I didn't start this to lead anyone. Then why? I hesitated. Because I needed to believe I could rise after falling. He raised his glass. Then here's to the rise. We drank, and for the first time in years, I felt something close to peace. Jake called later that night. So, boss man, what's next? I laughed. Work, of course. Can't let success ruin your insomnia. I'm just getting started. As I hung up, I looked out my office window. The city lights stretched endlessly, like stars within reach. I whispered to myself, not revenge, redemption, and for once I believed it. The jet gleamed beneath the morning sun, its metallic surface reflecting my face, older, sharper, colder. 5 years had turned the boy who begged for love into a man who owned the runway. Jake whistled beside me. Elysium Aviation? Damn, Ethan, even the name sounds like money. I smirked. I bought the company that turned me down for being too inexperienced. He grinned. Revenge looks good on you. Maybe, I said quietly. But it doesn't feel like much. Jake looked at me, puzzled. What do you mean? You've got jets, offices in 3 countries, and people calling you a genius. You're officially untouchable. I glanced at the hangar where my plane rested. Untouchable doesn't mean fulfilled, he snorted. You're telling me millions and your own fleet can't buy happiness? I tried, I said, half smiling. Turns out it's not for sale. Jake folded his arms. Still thinking about her? Sometimes, he sighed. Man, 5 years. You could have built a life, not just an empire. I did build a life, I said. Just not the one I thought I wanted. We walked toward the jet. My initials were etched in gold near the cabin door. EC. It still didn't feel real. Jake stopped. So what's next? Another company? Another mountain to climb? I hesitated. Closure, he frowned. You mean Claire? Yeah. Jake rubbed the back of his neck. You sure that's smart? I don't want her back, I said. I just want to look her in the eye and not feel anything. He sighed. Then what's the plan? She's back in town, I said. Ryan's airline folded last year. I heard she's working PR for a travel agency. Jake raised an eyebrow. You actually looked her up? I didn't have to. She sent a message last week. Jake's jaw dropped. She what? Just a simple line. Congratulations on your success. You always had it in you. Jake laughed. Oh, that's rich. Now that you're flying private, she remembers your potential. I smiled faintly. People always remember when you rise high enough. He leaned closer. So what are you going to do? Ignore her? No, I said. I invited her here. Jake's eyes widened. You're kidding. She's coming today. He groaned. You're insane. Maybe, but I need to end this my way. We stood there in silence for a while. The wind carried the faint hum of engines from a nearby hangar. My chest tightened as a car approached the gate. Jake muttered, and there she is. The black sedan stopped near the runway. The door opened and Claire stepped out. She looked different, older but still stunning in that effortless way that once broke me. She smiled cautiously. Ethan. Claire. My voice sounded calmer than I felt. Jake gave me a nod and walked off, leaving us in the quiet hum of the airstrip. She looked around. So this is yours? All of it. I heard about your company, she said softly. Elysium Technologies. And now aviation, I nodded. Funny, isn't it? I used to dream about flying. You just found someone who could make it happen sooner. She flinched slightly. I made mistakes. So did I said. I made you my whole world. Ethan, she began. But I cut her off. I'm not here to reopen old wounds. I just wanted to see if it still hurt. And does it? I looked her in the eye. Not anymore. She lowered her gaze. I'm happy for you, truly. Are you? She hesitated. I thought I wanted excitement. But what I really wanted was someone who believed in me the way you did. Too bad I stopped believing in us, I said quietly. Tears shimmered in her eyes. You've changed. I had to. She took a shaky breath. Ryan left. He couldn't handle losing everything. I guess we were both chasing the wrong kind of flight. I nodded slowly. Maybe we were. She stepped closer. Do you ever think about what could have been? Sometimes, I admitted. But then I remember what it took to become who I am now. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. Silence stretched between us. The jet's turbines began to spin, the sound growing louder, almost drowning out her next words. "You deserve all of this," she said. "I just wish I'd seen it sooner." I looked at her one last time. "You saw it, Claire. You just didn't believe it." Her eyes glistened. "Goodbye, Ethan." "Goodbye." She turned and walked away, her figure shrinking against the endless tarmac. Jake returned, hands in his pockets. "Well," I exhaled. "It's over," he smiled. "Finally." I watched the jet door open and the stairs lower. "Let's go home," Jake chuckled. "You mean the penthouse or the sky?" I smiled faintly. "Both." As the engines roared to life, I looked out across the runway, the same place where I'd once been left behind. Only this time, I was the one taking off. "Sir, we finalized the crew for today's investor flight," Olivia said, handing me the manifest as I adjusted my tie. "Good," I replied. "Everything ready on board?" "Yes, catering, champagne, and..." She paused briefly. "A new hire among the cabin crew. She transferred from another airline yesterday." I barely looked up. "As long as she's professional, I don't care where she came from," Olivia smiled. "Understood, Mr. Cole." The name still felt strange. Ethan Cole, founder, CEO, billionaire. Titles didn't comfort me anymore. Success had given me power, but it couldn't erase the ghosts I carried with it. We arrived at the hangar. My jet waited, sleek and silver, gleaming beneath the morning light. The engines hummed like a promise. I climbed the stairs slowly, reviewing notes for the meeting ahead. Then I heard it. A soft voice, warm and careful. "Welcome aboard, sir." My heart stopped. I looked up. The tray in her hands trembled slightly. Blonde hair tied neatly, a faint smile painted on her lips. One I knew better than my own reflection. "Claire," I whispered. Her eyes widened, disbelief flashing across her face. "Ethan?" For a moment, time folded. I saw flashes of our past, late-night drives, shared dreams, her laughter echoing in my small apartment. Then, like glass shattering, it was gone. I straightened my jacket and forced a polite smile. "Good to see you again, Miss Summers." Her lips parted, but no sound came out. She stepped aside quietly, letting me pass. Inside, Olivia was briefing the investors. "We'll take off in 15 minutes, Mr. Cole." "Thank you, Olivia," I said, my voice steady though my pulse wasn't. I took my seat near the window, pretending to read a report. Across the aisle, Claire moved through the cabin with practiced grace, but every movement was stiff, uncertain. She didn't look at me, but she didn't have to. I could feel the tension radiating off her like static. Jake's words from years ago echoed in my head. "You'll rise so high she'll have to look up to see you again." I hadn't expected it to happen so literally. Claire's voice broke through my thoughts. "Would you like a drink, sir?" I met her gaze for the first time. Her hands shook as she poured. "Still prefer black coffee?" she asked softly. I smiled faintly. "You remember." Her throat moved as she swallowed hard. "Hard to forget." "Some things are," I said, taking the cup from her. Our fingers brushed for a brief second, enough to make her flinch. Olivia approached, unaware of the storm brewing between us. "Mr. Cole, after takeoff, the investors would like to discuss the partnership details." "Of course," I said. "Thank you, Olivia." When she left, Claire exhaled slowly. "You own this jet?" I leaned back. "I own the company," she blinked. "Elysium Aviation?" I nodded, her lips trembled. "That's impressive." "I suppose it is," I said evenly. "How long have you been with the airline?" "About a year," she said quietly. "After Ryan's airline went bankrupt, I raised a hand slightly. "You don't owe me explanations." "I know," she murmured. "But I wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything." "Sorry doesn't change the flight path," I said. "It just tells me you wish you'd taken a different one." She bit her lip. "You're not the same person." "No," I said. "He died the night you walked away." The captain's voice crackled through the speakers, announcing takeoff. Claire hurried to her seat, head lowered. As the jet lifted, I looked out the window, the clouds swallowing the world below. When the seatbelt sign turned off, she returned to the aisle, avoiding my gaze. I watched her carefully, every glance, every nervous movement. She was the picture of composure, but her silence said more than any apology could. Halfway through the flight, one of the investors leaned over. "Your staff is excellent, Mr. Cole, especially that young lady." I smiled slightly. "She's experienced," I said. "Knows what turbulence feels like." Claire's hand froze on the champagne bottle. She looked at me, a flicker of pain in her eyes. After the investor settled, she approached me again. "You really built all this?" "With time," I said. "And pain." She hesitated. "You always dreamed big." "No," I said. "I started dreaming bigger when you stopped believing." Her eyes glistened. "You hate me, don't you?" I took a long sip of coffee. "No, Claire. Hate takes effort. I stopped wasting effort on the past." She looked down. "You must think I'm pathetic." "I think you made choices," I said. "We all live with them." She nodded slowly. "Ryan left after everything collapsed. He said I was bad luck." I studied her face, the faint lines near her eyes, the weight behind her smile. "Maybe you were just with the wrong pilot." A tear rolled down her cheek, but she quickly wiped it away. "You're cruel." "Maybe," I said quietly. "But I learned from the best." The rest of the flight passed in silence. When we landed, Olivia congratulated me on the deal. I nodded absently. Claire stood by the exit, head bowed. As I stepped past her, she whispered, "You really did become extraordinary." I stopped, turned slightly. "You taught me how." Our eyes met one last time. No anger, no love. Just the echo of what once was. Then I walked out into the sunlight, the hum of the jet fading behind me, leaving her standing where I once stood, watching someone else take flight. "Mr. Cole," Mr. Lee said, raising his glass. "I've worked with dozens of startups, but what you've built here? Remarkable." I smiled politely. "Thank you, Mr. Lee. Elysium was born from sleepless nights and a lot of stubbornness." He chuckled. "That stubbornness turned you into a billionaire before 35. Quite the story." I could feel Claire behind me. She was serving drinks, her movements quiet, careful, too careful. Through the reflection on the cabin window, I saw her freeze for just a second. Then she lowered her gaze and continued down the aisle. "Your brand changed luxury travel," Mr. Lee continued, "from aviation to lifestyle. People say Elysium doesn't just fly, it ascends." I let out a faint laugh. "That's kind of them to say." Jake, sitting a few seats away, smirked. "You're underselling yourself again, Ethan. Don't be modest." I gave him a look, but he ignored it. "Come on, man, you built this from nothing. You deserve to enjoy it." Claire's voice came soft and professional. "Another round of champagne, gentlemen?" Mr. Lee nodded. "Please." She leaned in, the faint scent of vanilla and jet fuel surrounding her, the same perfume she used to wear. Her hand trembled as she poured, the golden liquid catching the light. "Thank you, Miss Summers," I said evenly. She froze mid-pour, then gave a quiet nod. "Of course, sir." Mr. Lee lifted his glass again. "To second chances," I raised mine. "To knowing what to do when you get one." Claire turned away quickly, but I caught the reflection of a tear glistening before she wiped it away. The engines hummed softly. Jake leaned over to me and whispered, "You okay?" "Perfectly fine." He gave me a skeptical look. "You don't look it. I'm just remembering turbulence," I said quietly. He smirked faintly. "Emotional or actual?" "Both." Hours later, after the investors retired to the lounge section, I stood near the window, watching the horizon bleed orange. Claire approached slowly, hands clasped in front of her. "Ethan," she whispered. I turned, meeting her gaze. "It's Mr. Cole while we're in the air." Her voice trembled. "Please, just listen for a minute." I said nothing. I heard what they said, about you, about everything you've built. She paused. "You did it. You really did it." "I told you once I would," I said. "I didn't believe you," she admitted. "I thought you'd move on, maybe settle down, but you became someone untouchable." "I didn't do it to be untouchable," I said flatly. "I did it to never feel small again." Her eyes glistened. "You're not small. You never were." "Then why did you make me feel like I was?" She swallowed hard. "I was young, foolish. Ryan made me think money meant freedom." "And when he left you?" I asked quietly. She hesitated. "I realized freedom without love is a prison." I almost laughed. "Love? You left me for excitement, remember?" Her voice cracked. "I thought you'd never change." You were safe. Predictable. I wanted more. And now? I asked. She met my eyes, her voice breaking. Now I'd give anything to go back. Silence filled the cabin. The low hum of the engines was the only sound between us. I'm sorry, Ethan, she whispered. I made a mistake. I looked at her for a long moment. Then calmly I said, No, Claire. You made a choice. She flinched, as if the words struck her harder than any slap could. I regret it every day. Regret doesn't rebuild what you broke. Her eyes filled with tears. Do you hate me? I shook my head slowly. No. Hate is just another way of holding on. I let go years ago. She took a shaky breath. Then why does it feel like you're still punishing me? I'm not punishing you, I said softly. You're just feeling what I felt. I'm not being invisible. She stepped closer. Can you forgive me? Forgiveness isn't mine to give, I said. You'll have to find that somewhere inside yourself. Her lips trembled. Do you ever miss me? I met her gaze, steady and unflinching. I miss who I thought you were. She nodded slowly, tears rolling down. You've changed. So have you, I said. Only difference is I changed to survive, her voice lowered. And I changed because I was afraid. The seatbelt sign chimed. We were descending. Claire turned to leave but paused. You'll never know how much I regret walking away. I don't need to know, I said quietly. I just needed to see it. When the jet landed, everyone applauded. Deals were made, hands shaken. I smiled for the cameras, the perfect image of success. But when I glanced at the cabin door, I saw her standing there, motionless, eyes red, expression hollow. Jake approached, grinning. Another win, huh? Something like that. As I stepped off the jet, Claire called out faintly, Ethan! I turned slightly. Congratulations, she said, voice barely audible. You finally took flight. I looked at her one last time. No, Claire. I just learned how to land. Her expression faltered, and for a moment, I saw the girl I used to love, lost, fragile, reaching for something already gone. Then I walked away, the sound of my footsteps echoing down the tarmac. Behind me, I could hear the faint sob she tried to hide. The irony wasn't lost on me. She once left me for the sky, and now she was trapped serving drinks in mine. Maybe that was karma. Or maybe it was just gravity pulling us back to where we truly belonged. Either way, for her, the flight was over, and for me, it had just begun. Jake leaned against my office door, arms crossed. You're not gonna like this. I didn't look up from my laptop. Try me. She's here again. I exhaled slowly. Claire? He nodded. Front desk said she's been waiting an hour. Says she just wants 5 minutes. I rubbed my temples. She's wasting her time. Jake hesitated. You sure you don't want to talk to her? I already did, Jake, I said quietly. She just didn't hear it, he sighed. You've got a colder heart than I thought. Not cold, I muttered. Just done. Outside, through the glass wall, I saw her. Same posture, same nervous hands clutching her purse. She looked smaller somehow, like the weight of everything had finally caught up. Olivia poked her head in. Should I tell security to escort her out? No, I said. Let her leave on her own. She nodded softly and walked away. For a moment, I just sat there staring at the blinking cursor on my screen. My phone buzzed and another unknown number. I didn't answer. 2 days later, a letter arrived at reception, handwritten in neat, familiar curves. Olivia placed it on my desk. She mailed it herself, she said. I stared at the envelope. My name written in her handwriting felt like a ghost whispering my past back to life. Burn it? Jake suggested. I shook my head. No, just file it away. He raised an eyebrow. You're not even curious what it says? Curiosity's a luxury for people who still care. He nodded slowly. You really did move on, huh? Moving on doesn't mean forgetting, I said. It means remembering without reopening the wound. That night, news broke. Ryan had been caught falsifying flight hours to secure promotions. His pilot's license revoked, his reputation shredded across every aviation forum. Jake texted me the link. Guess karma flies faster than any jet. I just replied, it always lands eventually. The next morning, Claire called. I knew it was her even before answering. The silence on the line had her fingerprint all over it. Ethan? I leaned back in my chair. You shouldn't be calling, I know, but I didn't know how else to say it. Say what? I heard about Ryan, she said softly. He's ruined. I heard. You're not happy about it? I'm not anything about it, I said. It's not my business anymore. She hesitated. It's strange. I used to think justice was about revenge, but now I think it's about peace. Then I guess we both found ours differently. I'm trying, she whispered. You were right, you know. Choices have consequences. You learned that the hard way. She gave a small, sad laugh. I always did. The line went quiet. I could hear her breathing. Steady, nervous, real. I don't want you to hate me, she said finally. I don't, I replied. You're just a part of my story that ended. And yet here I am, still reading the last page. You'll stop one day. Maybe, she said. Or maybe some stories just linger. I didn't respond. She exhaled. I saw your interview last week. You looked different, peaceful. I am, I said simply. I'm proud of you, she said softly. You became everything you dreamed of. I closed my eyes, listening to the tremor in her voice, the sound of someone realizing too late. I mean it, Ethan, she continued. You deserved better. You always did. I could have said something kind. I could have offered closure. But instead, I let silence do it for me. After a few seconds, she whispered, Goodbye. The line went dead. Jake poked his head into my office later that day. She finally gave up? Yeah, he grinned faintly. Guess that's closure, huh? Closure isn't when they stop calling, I said. It's when you stop waiting for them to. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. You good? I am, he smirked. Then let's get back to work, boss. Investors are waiting. As he left, I looked out the window. The city stretched beneath me, calm and endless. Somewhere out there, Claire was probably looking at the same sky, wondering how everything changed so fast. But I wasn't angry anymore. Not sad either, just grounded. For the first time, I didn't need to fly to feel free. The engines hummed softly beneath me as I stared through the oval window. Clouds stretched endlessly below, pale and weightless, like the version of me I'd finally left behind. Olivia's voice broke through the quiet. Coffee, sir? I turned, smiling faintly. You never miss a beat, do you? She laughed. Not when the boss looks this calm. It's kind of unsettling. Calm? I took the cup. That's a new one. You've been different lately, she said, sitting across from me. Lighter. Like you finally put something down. I looked back at the clouds. Maybe I did. She tilted her head. Care to share what it was? I hesitated, then said, Her name was Claire. Olivia blinked. The Claire? The one and only, she nodded slowly. I remember the day you saw her again on the jet. You didn't say much, but I could tell it shook you. It did, I admitted. For years, she was the reason behind everything I built. Every sleepless night, every deal, every risk, it was all to prove something. To her? I sipped my coffee. To myself. But I told myself it was for her. That was the lie that kept me going. She smiled softly. And now? Now I see it differently. I leaned back, letting the hum of altitude fill the silence. You don't rise to make them regret leaving. You rise so they can't touch you anymore. Olivia studied me. That sounds like peace. It is, I said. The kind that comes when you stop fighting ghosts. She looked thoughtful. You think she's still thinking about you? Maybe, I said. But that's her journey now. Mine's up here. We sat in silence for a moment. The jet drifted through a beam of sunlight that painted the cabin gold. Olivia broke it first. Do you ever miss her? Miss who she was, maybe. Not who she became. People change, sometimes into strangers. And you? I changed too, I said. But I had to. I used to measure my worth by who loved me. Now I measure it by what I can build, who I can help, what kind of man I can be without needing validation. Olivia smiled. That sounds like something Mr. Reynolds would have said. I chuckled. He did. Right before he handed me my first investment check, he told me, Money amplifies who you already are. Make sure you like that person before you get rich. She nodded. Smart man. Yeah, I murmured. It took me years to understand what he meant. Success didn't fix me. It just gave me a louder echo. Olivia's eyes softened. You really are peaceful today. For the first time in a long time, I said. She stood to refill my cup. So what's next? You've conquered air travel, tech, luxury. What else is left? I smiled faintly. Maybe not conquering. Maybe just living, building something that matters beyond me. Like what? Scholarships. Innovation labs. Giving kids like me, the ones everyone called ordinary, a shot. That sounds beautiful, she said. It's necessary, I replied. Because the world's full of people waiting for permission to believe in themselves. I wasted years chasing approval when I could have been creating purpose. Olivia leaned on the table. You really let her go, didn't you? I looked out at the endless white below. She was never mine to keep. But closure doesn't come from answers, I interrupted. It comes from acceptance, she nodded slowly. So this is you, above the clouds, finally free. Free, I repeated. Not from her. From who I used to be because of her. Olivia smiled. Then maybe you should write that down. Sounds like something worth remembering, I laughed. Maybe I just did. The radio crackled, the pilot's voice cutting through. Altitude holding steady at 40,000 feet. Clear skies ahead. Clear skies, I echoed softly. Olivia turned to leave, but paused at the door. For what it's worth, Ethan. I'm proud of you, I smiled. Funny, she said the same thing once. But this time, I believe it. She grinned and disappeared into the galley. The hum of the engines grew steady again. I set the empty cup aside and let the quiet wash over me. Somewhere below, cities buzzed with noise and ambition, the same kind that once consumed me. But up here, as above the clouds, the noise faded. I thought of the boy who once begged the world to notice him. The man who chased ghosts through sleepless nights. The fool who thought success was revenge in disguise. He was gone. In his place sat someone new, not flawless, but finally whole, I whispered to myself. You rise so they can't touch you anymore. And as the jet climbed higher, the sky opened wider, endless and forgiving. For the first time in years, I didn't look down, I looked forward.